On the day of his inauguration on January the 20th, President Trump signed a flurry of executive orders, the number and breadth of which made it hard for commentators to know where to focus. Buried in the detail of one of those orders, the one that declared a national emergency at the southern border, was Section 6B, that within 90 days the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of Homeland Security would submit a report to the President, which would include a recommendation on whether to invoke the Insurrection Act of 1807. That 90 days expires in just a couple of weeks. The Insurrection Act would enable the President to direct the military to take part in removing anything that is defined as an obstacle or insurrection, what one writer described as the slippery slope towards unchecked presidential power under a man with an affinity for iron-fisted dictators. He noted that if Trump were to invoke the Insurrection Act and declare martial law, he wouldn't be required, by the letter of the law, to even allege an actual insurrection. All that would be required is to argue that unlawful obstruction made it impractical to enforce the laws of the United States.
At the Conscious Hour, what we do is we connect the dots. So as a geopolitical analyst, I'm connecting all the dots and I'm trying to guess what's coming. I am shocked, not really, but he articulated exactly what's coming, but he hasn't quite said it, so I'm going to say it real clearly. They're creating a concentration camp for the United States of America, just like they are in Israel. You're going to live in encampments. They're going to control exactly what you do and how you do it. But they don't want to stop there. Remember, they want to take Canada and everything. So we have a business model that should shock everybody when it comes to Israel being involved doing anything in the United States. We're already losing our constitutional rights, and they aren't finished.
On that basis, he would be able to deploy troops even in the face of opposition by state governors. Now, in principle, you'd be likely to argue that what has happened since then has clearly shown that such a move is just not necessary in relation to the terms of the executive order, the situation on the southern border. Because in the first 2 months since his inauguration, the number of illegal migrants caught crossing the southern border has plunged by 82%. 8,347 people in February compared to 47,330 in December. If those reductions were to hold for the rest of the year, it would make the level of migrant arrests the lowest they have been since the mid-1960s. So whatever problems you have with Trump's policies in other areas, if you're purely measuring whether they have the desired effect, nobody can really claim that Trump's positioning here hasn't been completely successful. So you would presume that means no need to invoke the Insurrection Act then, logically? I mean, it is possible that logic is not the main factor in play. There are some signs that the military is gearing up for something. For instance, just 3 days ago, the Center for Strategic and International Studies noted that the US Navy is deploying destroyers to the southern border. On March 22nd, it said the USS Spruance, a guided missile destroyer, shipped out towards the border, and that was a week after the USS Gravely had also been sent to the Gulf of Mexico. This raised questions as to what exactly those sorts of deployments were meant to achieve at the border.